Before we actually get started sewing, I want us to take a look at some of the landmarks on the presser foot. When we were stitching on paper, we were using this part right here to line up. Sometimes we're going to be using the inside of this silver toe. But for this particular project, we're going to use the outside of the presser foot on the right side. And that will give us about 1/2 inch from the needle to the edge of the presser foot if we are on stitch number 1, and that's what we're supposed to be on. So whenever you start sewing, you should always check to make sure that your machine is threaded correctly. So I have my little spider here. It's called a spider because you use it enough times that it's full of little legs of thread. And we're just going to stitch about 1 inch on here. Now you all should be stitching at about number 1, unless you have stitched with me before, you've sewn a project with me before, then you can go a little faster, but never above number 2. So I've stitched about 1 inch. I'm going to do needle up, presser foot up, pull off to the left. Remember when you use the needle up button, it finishes the stitch so that you don't get a big blob of thread underneath. And so I'm checking front and back. It looks pretty good. We're ready to go. Now you always want to sew with the biggest part of the project to the left. Trying to get that thread underneath the foot. And we're going to start and stop at these pencil marks that we made on our fabric. So I'm going to line mine up so that my needle is about even with that mark, and I want the outside edge with that next to the edge of the fabric, and I'm going to get rid of that pin because I don't need it. I'm going to drop my needle down, and I'm going to stitch about 3 forward and then 3 backwards. Okay, and then I'm going to hit the back stitch button. You can hit it and hold it, or you can just hit it one at a time. And I hit it and held it. Alright, so now I'm going to stitch forward, and I want to pivot when I get to about the 1/2 inch, and this is where I'm going to check. I'm going to lift my presser foot and turn. So that was right before the fabric touched this silver mark right here. So I'm going to lift and turn and reline it up here. I should have a nice sharp corner. Remember, make sure your needle is down when you turn, otherwise you're going to have a hole in the corner. And I'm actually going to bump my speed up a little bit since I'm an experienced sewist. But as I get closer to that corner, I'm going to slow down because I don't want to overshoot it. And I'm going to lift and check. That looks pretty good. Remember, needle down, lift the presser foot up and pivot. And I'm going to slow down because I'm getting close to my pivot point. And there I am again. And one more pivot, and then we're going to back stitch. Always remember to take your pins out. Your fingers are just kind of floating on top. You're not pushing or pulling real hard, but you do want to keep your fabric together. All right, so maybe 1 or 2, 1 more stitch. All right, and turn, and then I'm just going to go till I get even with the pencil mark, and then I'm going to back stitch. Alright, I'm even with it, then I'm going to go about 3 backwards, and then needle up, presser foot up, pull off to the left, and I want you to make sure that you clip those threads really close with the scissors, because we don't want them hanging us up whenever we are getting ready to open or close up our project. So we want to get rid of all those threads. And there we go. Alright, so when it's finished, it should look like this. There should be an opening on one side that's about 2 inches long, and you should have nice crisp corners all the way around. I need to check this before you go on to the next step, because remember, this is a graded project.